Hey guys, it's Lindsay at the blog Repurpose and Upcycle. I am going to show you how to create this faux wood look on a flat fiberglass front door. Now this project didn't come without hiccups. It didn't really turn out the way I wanted it to turn out, but I still think it's an improvement over what it first looked like. So I'm going to show you the steps I took and some things that I would do a little differently if I were to do this again. So here is the door from a side view. You could see the terrible paint job. It needs to be cleaned. You could see where we tried to touch up the oil rubbed bronze on the handle. It just doesn't look good. So I've decided to do a faux wood finish. The first thing that you're going to want to do before you even think about putting paint on it is clean everything really well. I'm going to start by cleaning it with just some soapy water and a paper towel. And make sure you open the door too. And that brings me to the next thing that I need to talk about. Because this is my front door, I don't have another door to put on it. I am going to be painting and preparing the surface while the door is on the hinges. It's not really ideal, but because it's my front door and I don't have another option, that's what I'm going to do. And a quick side note, each layer of paint needs to sit about 12 hours. So make sure your conditions outside are good. Right now we're like 50s, 60s, lower humidity. So this is a good time for me to paint my outside door. If you look real closely, I want to show you my door does not have any wood grain. Some fiberglass doors come with a wood grain. If it does, that really saves you a step, and all you have to do is just apply the gel stain over top of that. My door does not have any wood grain, so I'm going to be applying a faux wood grain, and I'm going to show you how. Let's talk supplies. First thing is the gel stain. I'm using Minwax gel stain in the color coffee and the color hickory. Now here are the graining tools I'm using. I'm using two different sizes. The smaller one helps get in the smaller areas, and it creates a little bit of variance. And I'm using just a simple chip brush to apply the gel stain with. You can see I'm just applying in a decently thick manner. And then you take your wood graining tool and you rock it back and forth as you roll up and down the panel. Now I'm not going to talk about how to use a wood graining tool. I have another video where I detail specifically how to use these wood graining tools. And it's really easy. If you make a mistake, you just paint over it and then roll your wood graining tool back over it. Another thing I want to talk about is make sure you really mimic the wood grain and the way the wood grain goes. So each panel, it might be facing a different direction. Like you see that center panel is the wood grain is going horizontal, whereas all the other panels are going vertical. It doesn't really matter where you start. I like to start in the middle and work my way out. One thing I do want to say, one of my biggest mistakes on this project, you can see how much wood graining there is. It almost looks like a very exotic wood. Hindsight, if I could do it over, be real consistent and simple with your wood grain. If you look closely, you see some of my wood grain lines are wavy. Just make sure they're as straight as you can get them. If I could do it over again, I would have done a lot less wood grain. I would have made sure they were really straight, and I would have made it a little more simple. After you've done the wood grain coat, it's time to add the layers of just regular gel stain without the wood grain coat. You can see I'm using these lint-free rags to apply it. And by the way, I did let the wood grain coat dry overnight, so it's been drying a good 16 hours. And that's really important to make sure that they don't blend together, that when you apply the regular coat over the wood grain coat, that it doesn't smear. You really want to make sure that the first coat and every consecutive coat is super dry before you apply another one. As you can see here, I'm just using the lint-free cloth to apply the stain, and then after I apply the stain, what I'm doing is I am taking a clean lint-free cloth and gently wiping it. Now this is going to be a process of layers. It's going to take at least 2 to 3 coats, so this is a multi-day process. You might be wondering how I got around the handle. So you can see here where I'm just taking the rag and I'm going around the handle. And after I go around the handle, if I got anything on the handle, I just went back with a clean, lint-free cloth and just wiped the handle off, just like that. And it worked fine. As long as the gel stain hasn't dried at all, it wipes off just fine. So here is what the final product looked like after the second coat. Full disclosure, I was not pleased even after the second coat. Hang tight. After we do the third and the fourth, it's going to look more like a wood door. So here we are, day 3. This is what it looks like after the second coat is dry. Time to put the third coat on. Now I'm going to start in the middle and I'm just going to do the same thing I did with the last coat. I'm going to take my lint-free rag and I'm going to take a good bit of gel stain and I'm going to apply it in, I think the best way to do it is in a circular motion. Let it sit for like a minute and then drag it in the direction of the wood grain. You can see here I'm doing a circular motion and I'm doing it in sections. So after I've applied the gel stain on that section, I'm going to take my rag and go over and wipe it in the direction of the wood grain. And so you can see here all I'm doing is I'm going to continue on in that same pattern and I'm going to do section by section. So I started in the middle and now I'm going to do the vertical section and I'm just going to continue on until I complete the third coat. So here's what it looks like after the third coat is dry. It's super streaky. It just doesn't look uniform. To be honest, it hasn't turned out the way I wanted it to. I'm going to give it one more fourth and final coat and see what I can do. Now this time around, I am using a simple chip brush and I am hoping that the bristles from the chip brush will give it more of a wood-like look. I'm doing one more simple coat on top of the fiberglass door and then I'm going to call it quits. Hindsight, there are a few things I would do differently with this project. The first thing is I would have made the graining coat much more simple. I wouldn't have done so many grains. I would have made one simple pass over each panel and probably done a lighter color, a lighter stain color. And then with each progressive stain coat, I would have done lighter coats, not heavy ones, because I feel like the door it's darker than I wanted it to be. But overall, it's been a good learning experience, and I wanted to share my experience with you guys. So here's what it looks like with the fourth and final coat. You can see it's still wet. I'm hoping to get a little more of that graining look by using the chip brush. And here is the final product completely dry. It does look better dry than I expected. That being said, it didn't turn out like I wanted to when I began this project. And that's okay. Not all DIYs are, 100% successful. Not saying that this was unsuccessful. I still believe that this door looks better now than it did when it was white. It always showed dirt marks and it was hard to clean. And you can see it still has that inconsistent wood look to it. It just didn't turn out exactly like I expected. And that's okay. There are a few things that I would do differently if I were to do this again. First one is I might have gone a little overboard on the wood grain with the wood grain tool. Definitely go light with the wood grain. You can always add more wood grain, but you can't necessarily take it away. Also, go lighter than you think. You can always add more colors to make it darker. And my second thing I definitely would have done differently is don't put such a heavy coat when you're adding the layers after the wood grain coat. Do light layers because like I said, they always dry darker. They're not going to dry lighter. You can always add more coats, but it's harder to take them away. My biggest piece of advice is to always test out what you're going to do first. Even if you take a cardboard box and use the graining tool just to see how it's going to turn out before you try it on your actual surface. Most of all, I hope I have given you some knowledge and tools to create your own beautiful faux wood fiberglass door with some of my mistakes. And I hope you have learned how to master your own project. And that's my goal. Even if it doesn't turn out perfectly on my end, I hope you can learn something from it. Thanks for watching, guys.